And as time comes and goes, leaders are not getting better, they're getting worse. As time comes and goes, nations are not getting stronger, they are getting weaker. So Nebuchadnezzar has a dream about this image. I call it the Colossus. When he dreams about this image, it's a very detailed dream. He dreams that this image is made of several materials. Gold, y'all know what that is. Silver, you're aware. It was also made of bronze, or what we would call in the Old Testament brass. Some people might would classify that as copper, either way. And then it was made of iron. You know what iron is. Our building has certain elements of iron in it to hold up this structure. And then the iron was followed by clay. Y'all know what clay is, don't you? Now what's interesting about it is that Nebuchadnezzar's dream involved the evolution of those materials, don't forget this, from top to bottom. So if you are looking at the diagram that I prepared for you in the image to the left by Clarence Larkin, you'll notice that beside the head of the image, I placed the material gold there. Do you see that? And then the neck and chest is made out of silver. This is specifically the way Daniel described it. And then the abdominal and upper thigh area was made out of brass. And then the thighs just above the knee and the calves were made out of iron. And then the very bottom, the feet, were made out of iron and clay mixed together. Now let's begin to unfold some facts before we go any further. Daniel comes to Nebuchadnezzar and he says, "You have dreamed about the history of world empires in one dream." So every section of that statue represents a world empire. And every metal or every material represents some distinct characteristic about that world empire. Now, I'm going to grab your attention and try to hold on to it. Are you ready? Almost all of these world empires have come and gone except one. There is one world empire represented in this Colossus image that is still yet to come. And we're going to talk about that, the Lord willing, tonight. So here's what Daniel says. He goes to Nebuchadnezzar in verses 36, 37, and 38. I'm going to let you scan it. I don't have the time to read it again. I'm going to let you scan over that. Verses 36, 37, and 38, he comes to Nebuchadnezzar and he says, "Nebuchadnezzar, you're the head of gold. You're the top of the image." And then he says in verse 39 that his kingdom would be replaced by another world empire that is represented by silver. Now, let me poll the audience here, okay? Don't answer out loud unless you know for sure what you're going to say, all right? What's more valuable, gold or silver? Gold, right? Gold. So you'll notice that this image has a progression, not upward, but downward. And as we go from the head down, the metals get less and less valuable. You see that? We go from gold to silver to brass to iron to clay. Now, let me ask you a question, ladies. If your darling was going to bring you a piece of jewelry, would you want it made out of gold or clay? And I know how some of you are. You're so sentimental and precious and submissive. You say, "I'll just take any old thing that he's willing to give." And we all know you're lying. In church, of all places. If you're going to get jewelry, you want gold, right? There's not hardly anything more valuable than gold. But here's something you may not know. Of all of these metals and of all these materials that are listed here, gold is not just the most valuable, but gold is the heaviest of them all. An ounce of gold by weight or by mass is heavier than silver. As far as the gravitational pull, gold is heavier than silver, and guess what? Silver is heavier than brass, brass is heavier than iron, and iron is heavier than clay. So we notice something about this image right out of the gate. It is very top heavy. With a head of gold and feet of clay, this is a precarious image. Would you agree? Now here's what I want to point out to you. Daniel comes with this prophetic analogy, and he says to Nebuchadnezzar, your empire, the Babylonian Empire, is the gold standard when it comes to world empires. And every subsequent empire after the Babylonians begins to deteriorate and devolve into worse conditions, less valuable material, and lighter weight, until it goes all the way down to an empire made out of clay. And there is no more fragile building material than clay. Would you agree? So this tells us something about the progression of our world, prophetically speaking. And I think all of us can agree on this. The world's not getting better. It's getting worse. And as time comes and goes, leaders are not getting better. They're getting worse. As time comes and goes, nations are not getting stronger. They are getting weaker. Am I correct? And it has evolved very visibly before our eyes. We are living in the weakest generation ever. There are more pansies and weaklings among American citizenship today than there's ever been before. I can tell you this for a fact. There's not a kid being born that could hold a candle to the work ethic of the people who grew up in the 50s.